Well, howdy.
Hi there.
How are you doing this fine evening?
Excellent. Excellent. Really quite anxious to talk about the movie we have in front of us.
Oh, I'm somewhat anxious as well because it's an old movie, but I've just seen it for the first time.
Yeah.
For the very first time.
Yeah. In fact,
For the first time in forever.
This is one you told me you may never ever watch.
I did?
At Once Upon a Time.
Oh.
Before we
I don't remember things I say.
I think because the amount of sort of retroactive hype it has turned you off a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Well, this is Nancy, and I'm joined by
Brando.
You changed it up. Nice. I'm joined by Brando, and this is our podcast, Somewhat Diverted, where we take our leisurely stroll through movie memory, movie something, and determine how entertaining movies are and kind of talk about what makes them entertaining. And this is our 11th episode, and I think our 4th episode or so that's on YouTube as well. So check us out on YouTube. Just search for Something Diverted. That's not our channel name because we have to have so many subscribers before we have a channel name, but you can find it that way. Just look for our logo. But you can also find us on somewhatdiverted.com, on Twitter at sdiverted, on Instagram at somewhatdiverted. Subscribe to us on pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. And yeah. What have you been up to?
Oh boy, it has been a busy couple of weeks. I mean, top to bottom, maybe not in any particular order, but we're wrapping up month number 2 with a new baby, our first, and COVID cases are spiking like crazy where we're at, and concerned about that. And
hopefully by the time this shows, they've dropped.
Our jobs are always just by nature during this COVID crisis are always in flux, and then of course we just had the big old election, which isn't really even officially over, I guess, but officially, unofficially.
And that's a good way to put it.
At the time of this recording.
It is, but isn't. At the time of the recording, at the time of the playing of this, who knows? Everything could be totally different, but chances are it'll be exactly the same. They're still going through recounts and stuff, which is fine.
Yeah. Which, so all of that just kind of makes it pretty crazy, but I overall feel great and grateful to be alive and be having fun doing a podcast.
Yeah, I've been quitting sugar. If you remember right, we've talked about it a little bit here or there, but I'm doing all right with that. I'm feeling a little bit better in general.
As
I'm
one
still fat, but
as one who still eats too much sugar, probably, well, definitely. How long? I know you don't eat like zero sugar ever, but you've made a huge change with soda. And how long do you feel like it took for the most severe cravings to disappear, or have they disappeared yet?
They were a few days, but a few days long, around about day 14 or 15, or even before. But I think they've trailed off mostly because I've been drinking diet drinks, which I probably shouldn't do because, some of that sugar, they found links to brain issues and things like that. So it's not as good for you either. You don't get the diabetes, but it causes other problems.
But you feel about after 2 weeks or something like that.
That's when some of the strongest cravings hit after a couple weeks, but they didn't last for more than a few days.
Okay.
And I've started liking water, which is, I swore I'd never do.
It's so
but
funny.
I did.
From the side of addiction, like you're on, let's say where I'm at right now, I still drink a lot of soda, too much soda. And you think to yourself, I would miss this so much. And I would hate to drink these other things like water and whatever else. But then you kind of get past it. I mean, just you're 3 or 4 weeks into it or something.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I would still love a big old Coke.
But your feelings
Just
about
to sit
water.
down and
Don't you think your feelings about water changed quicker than you thought they would?
yes, they did. But it doesn't hurt that I'm drinking as much water as I was drinking soda. I'm drinking almost 2 liters of water a day, and I was drinking probably that much of soda a day.
Yeah.
Or more. I don't know. It depends on the day. So gives you an idea of how far gone I was.
I'm excited for
yeah.
you.
But I'm doing all right.
It's great.
Yeah, so let's go into today's movie, because for many film buffs and many list makers out there, this is for them the best movie ever made.
Perennially a number one.
Right. It's almost always number one and the gold standard for movies. I never understood why. We just did our top 10 list and last episode, and we were talking about how we had never seen it, so we thought we'd see it and give it a rating. Yeah. We are talking about Dr. Zhivago. No, Citizen Kane. The old Orson Welles in the movie.
I have the old poster put up or on my screen right here just for a little inspiration. It's like, it's terrific. You know, like those old advertising campaigns of.
Does it say it's fantastic? Because that's what I would have written.
A lot of it. I mean, that's basically what all those used to do. It's wonderful. It's fantastic.
But it's, when did it come out? What does it say on the poster? 1941.
Uh-huh.
It's almost as old as my dad. My dad would have been 5 when it came out. We're turning 5 that year.
It's a long time ago.
It's a couple of years. But it's amazing that it's that old and people still feel like it's the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah.
Was it 80 years now? Almost 80 years.
Do you think it's like a first love situation? Although there were great movies before that, like Gone with the Wind is famously one of the highest grossing movies of all time.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it was kind of like, because it stood at the advent of big time movie making.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I watched it, and I won't say anything yet, but there was more to it than I knew, because I hadn't seen it before either.
Yeah, and it's an old movie. Chances are a lot of people haven't seen it. So let's kind of go through the plot a little bit, just kind of in a few sentences or less. Let's go through together and talk about the plot. Like, to me, it's mostly about finding out who the main character was.
Yeah.
Was his name Charles Kane?
Yes. Yeah. Finding out who the main character is, and there's also this kind of central mystery to the thing.
Yeah, at the beginning of the show, it shows him dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it shows him dying, and his last words are
Rosebud.
Rosebud.
He drops a snow globe on the floor of his bedroom, or wherever his deathbed.
So that's the mystery, and that's what they spend the whole movie is trying to figure out who was this guy and what does that mean.
Yeah.
Is that a good summation of the plot?
Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of told through flashbacks.
Yeah.
It's like a series of flashbacks, and that's fair.
Okay.
Where do we start with this?
I don't even know where to start.
I don't know where to start either. I don't
know the actors that well. The only one I know is Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Just because his name was as big as he was. Wasn't he the guy that read the War of the Worlds over the radio, or was that someone
Oh,
else?
that might be where I recognize his name. I know he was a radio guy, so like that was kind of why he was famous before he made this
Yeah,
movie.
I think it was him that read that story over the radio, and people thought it was real. And
People
anyway,
started
but
selling
that's
their possessions.
yeah,
And,
that's the only name that I recognize that I really know for sure,
yeah.
because it's been so long ago.
Um, I don't know if this is part of the discussion or not. We kind of stay away from the nuts and bolts of movies, more about just the entertaining
How they make you feel and that sort of
side,
thing.
right? Yeah.
You can talk about it.
I was just gonna say when I had to research some about this to find out why. Because I think if I had just happened upon it and watched it, I would have not recognized it as one of the greatest movies of all time. I just thought that's interesting or something.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was reading about it, I guess it's supposed to be like an encyclopedia of cinema. How do you say that? I mess up with that word every time. Cinematography and cinematographic techniques. So he used so many things like
Okay.
like I don't know, like showing
Camera positioning and
showing
organization of.
something in a reflection, or you remember the part where it shows that huge fireplace he has in his mansion, and it makes him look really tiny.
Yeah.
Like all these kind of forced perspective things that are supposed to add that was never used. Like even in something as big as Gone with the Wind, they just use straight shot
Yeah.
storytelling, so that was interesting to read about that. And that's one reason it's talked about so much, I think, among critics, is because
And that's
it's like
interesting you say that, because I didn't, like, as I was watching it, it
Mhm.
wasn't something that I just noticed like I did. So it wasn't just like, let's use all these different ways to film it. They
Yeah.
actually made sense with the movie. It wasn't like taken out of in a way that, sorry, my seat's not comfortable.
It didn't seem like it was forced.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seemed like it was all the way it was supposed to have been made. So,
Yeah, like
so he made it work.
appropriate uses of all those techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read that before I watched it, just before I watched it and after. And I was looking out for them, and there were a lot of different interesting perspective things. A lot of times, because the story, as you say, as we're getting to know the main character, you kind of, I don't know, I'd say if you're like me, your feelings about him kind of fluctuate over the course of the movie. And
Yeah.
in the times where he is perceived as being powerful and successful, a lot of the angles are from down low and he looks really tall. And then as he's kind of starting to fall apart, for lack of a better term, or the holes are starting to show,
The camera starts to come up a little
he
way.
kind of starts to show those things where he's tiny in the fireplace and he's, other things like that. So yeah, I just thought it was an interesting thing. I'm not a movie critic by any means. I don't know what to look for that particular. And they say it's just like they always go to that movie as an encyclopedia of any technique you want to see.
Well, that's why we aren't critiquing the movies. I guess we're critiquing the entertainment value of the movie.
Yeah.
So
So back on your couch, tell me what you were entertained by or not.
I thought the story was pretty good. I liked the story. I liked the mystery of it and trying to figure out who he was. The acting didn't drive me away, so it was good in that respect. It helped pull me into the story. You could definitely tell it was an older movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely liked the story. That was probably the extent of it, though.
Love the story.
Yeah.
Missed out on. I mean, it's not like there's a great score or anything that I can.
No,
remember.
Music's not there. Soundtrack's not there. At least I don't remember it at all, which could be good or bad. But and maybe it's just because there was just so much hype where it's the number one movie that I didn't see it as that.
It's interesting. It's hard to go back as someone who grew up with movies with a ton more technology and ability to do things, to go back and just from a purely enteraining perspective, be able to find things as entertaining as the things they can do now.
Yeah.
I actually experienced that recently with my sister. I said, Alf, did you watch Alf growing up?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I love Alf. I think that one, he's so quippy and fast and funny with his comments and things. He's witty. But I asked my sister to watch it, and I was so excited for her to go watch it because she was probably just a little too young to remember that. And I think it was on Hulu recently, and she went and watched it and said she couldn't get past the first episode because it was so dated. And you do watch it. I mean, it's like 80s all over the place, all their furniture and the wallpaper. And but anyway, like this movie here, it is hard to do that. You have to kind of know that going in, that it's not going to have the same color and flair as some of our favorite 80s, 90s, 2000 flicks. So I agree with you, but for me, the story also was really good. And I don't think we've talked about this that much, but I realized something about myself. Some of my favorite movies have a little bit of heartbreak to them. You know, it's like that little thing that nicks you in the heart, and you kind of feel sad for them. And to me, that bumps up the memorable.
You felt sad for Citizen Kane, for Charles Kane?
Yeah, I really did.
You did?
I mean, you kind of, it's a mixed thing. He was a jerk to a lot of people, and he was clearly trying to like replace his innocent childhood that he lost with success and money and people and women and stuff. So anyway, I did feel bad for him, but still, to me, there was some heartache there when you find out, you know, you don't find out to the very end when the sled is like burning in the furnace, when they're burning all of his possessions, you know. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty thought-provoking. Not just a nice story, but maybe one step further. It was thought-provoking and had a little bit of just a nick to your heart there at the end.
Yeah. And I guess I'm just different. I never felt that sorrow for him at all because he used everybody.
You just think he deserved it?
Well, he didn't. Everything that he did was for himself.
Yeah.
He used everybody for himself, to try to, as you were saying, relive his childhood, to try to go back to nostalgia is a tricky thing. That's what The Great Gatsby is all about, right?
Yeah.
It's basically a Great Gatsby story, which is trying to relive as best he can, but he's using everybody to do that. It's using everybody for himself.
Yeah.
So I didn't really feel
that is very true. He just was a tragic character in that, right? You know what I didn't understand? I'll have to watch it again, and I'm sure people out there understand better, but I didn't understand why he was being given away by his parents at the beginning. Or not really given away, but well, kind of like he became because the business.
I think there was some mine or something that had a bunch of money, and so they had all this money that he could use, and it was given to him, not to his family. So they felt he could be better cared elsewhere. Plus, I don't think his dad was that great to him. Yeah, I think that might have been part of it. Bunkered. At least that's what I gathered, and I might have been watching a different movie.
No, that's probably right, and I agree with you. It's hard to be completely sympathetic with him. I think maybe my feeling of sorrow for him comes from the fact that it's like he didn't start off with a very good chance of becoming a great person because he didn't grow up with a loving family. Really.
Well, he did a lot of great things.
Yeah,
in his life. So he wasn't a horrible person, but everything he did was to make himself more powerful and to make himself better. Yeah.
Yeah, very
Kept
true.
people employed and that sort of thing. So he did some good things.
And as far as stories go, you want some conflict in your characters and not someone who's perfect and
Right.
perfectly good or perfectly bad.
Yeah. For me, the only time I really felt sorry for him was when he was given away. And I guess in a way, in a sense that, you know, because it happened where he was so young, it kind of ruined him for the rest of his life, and he had no control necessarily over that aspect because it was a psychological issue that he had.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Um,
just grasping at straws, really
right.
trying to regain what he had lost because of his parents seemed to be trying to do what was best for him,
Mhm.
um, but because of his parents. Anyway, he could have had another. How old was he when he was given up? Like 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that.
So that or younger, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe even younger. So he had another 10 to 15 years of, in theory,
Childhood.
of just innocent childhood and playing and stuff. But anyway, I thought the story was very good, very thought provoking.
Yeah.
But
My problems with the movie, aside from not really feeling a lot for him, is the lighting in some of the scenes wasn't that good. Hard to
mhm,
see people's faces, which it was an old movie. Well, you can see their faces in other scenes,
yeah,
so maybe they were just trying to set a different tone, but I couldn't figure it out. So it was beyond me. So it just bothered me that I couldn't see some faces. And again, I was expecting this great, magnificent movie, and this is a movie that I don't know why no one has ever done it, but I could see it easily being remade
hmm,
and being 10 times better.
yeah, adding in all the new techniques and technology and
Still, I mean, it could be a shot for shot remake, just
anything. I mean, just the score, for
just
example, I
better
think
scenes, better lighting.
like a really good score too would really fit with
Yeah.
that movie because there's so much emotion.
But they probably feel like we can never remake this because
Yeah,
it's the pinnacle.
no one dares to do it.
Um, I think someone should knock it off its block,
Yeah.
knock its block off, Charlie Brown.
How do you feel about acting in general? Don't you feel like acting has changed over time quite a bit? Like when I watch
Yeah,
these old movies, they seem bigger. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but the women are always, like, and like it's such a terrible thing, and that's kind of how they talked, I guess, back in that time too.
I think they're more the people are more used to being on like in theater and that they're
Yeah,
still getting used to the big screen,
that's a good way to
and the
put it. It's
mics
like a
probably weren't that good. Maybe the
little more
cameras weren't that good,
theatrical.
so they really want you to sell the facial expressions and things just to make sure. Because I know even in black and white movies and black and white stuff, they still had to wear makeup for certain colors to show up, so they probably still had to overact some scenes.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
point. Yeah, it is. It is a little hard to go back just cold turkey and watch one of these old movies. You miss out on a lot of the sort of luxuries that are standard now in movies.
right. But for its time, I still think it was a good movie. It was the story was great, the acting was great. It could have used a little bit more in places. Um, you said it like you said, it was thought provoking, brings a little bit out of you, makes you think about things. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about where we rank it.
Yeah, let's rank this bad boy.
Go ahead.
Um, so I definitely don't see it as a number one movie like of all time. Um, if you base it on its age and when it was made, then I could see some argument for being in the top 10 or something. But I think it was a good movie, a great movie, even. It was entertaining. I got to think of an adjective for it. So don't get me wrong, and I'm thinking it's a horrible movie. It's still an entertaining movie. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend to watch it because it's still pretty good. But I would give it a. We made the joke about this last episode or a couple episodes ago. I don't even know because we're recording these all out of order. I'm going to give it a 7 diverting.
Okay.
Don't ask me what it's out of. It's out of diverting. I'm giving it a 7 diverting.
Not necessarily what you think it's out of.
It's just 7 out of diverting.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but it's still a pretty good number. It's a lucky number.
Before I give my ranking, I have to say one thing about Seinfeld, which we've already talked about.
Okay.
When I was a little kid, I had a dream, or kind of this daydream almost, where I imagined my mom introducing me to friends at school and telling them my name was 5. I don't know why. And I remember feeling
like
really
7 Costanza.
I really felt really sorry for myself. Like in this sort of, it wasn't a dream at night. It was like something I imagined and just thought, oh man, I would feel so sorry for myself. And then when that Seinfeld episode came out where, yeah, he goes by 7, George, I don't even remember the context really completely.
They were trying to think of names for their kid and then someone else liked it and took it. You can't take it. It's mine.
Yeah. So I was stunned when I first saw it. I thought, no way. I thought I was the only one that ever thought about that. But
I was wondering how you were going to tie those in, but then the 7, because I said 7 out of diverting.
So I have to say one thing here. I don't know what else to say about it either, but I have to say this. After I was fully aware of the hype, and that's another thing that's hard to do, is to go in completely unbiased. And although our job's not to be unbiased, we're trying to be entertained here and talk about entertainment. So, but I did try to go in with an open mind and just kind of a blank slate. And I think that I didn't talk to my wife specifically about this, but I felt like we were both just mesmerized by the movie somehow. And I can't explain it because you're right. The color and the modern comforts and things are not there. It's pretty chilly as far as that goes. Not much to offer, but I thought the story was so good, like extra good. And I think that I value story and just my personal entertainment scale.
Mm-hmm.
That one's I put a lot of weight into it. So anyway, I'm going to give it a highly diverting.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm thinking that I think it's a horrible movie. It's a 7 out of diverting in my scale.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying too. So,
okay.
All right. Well, what does that mean for our consensus score?
Oh yeah, let's punch this in. Wait for it to come back here. It's got the 3 little dots.
Yeah, it's rendering.
Boop, 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 boop. It's thinking this is our scientific approach. It's been listening to our conversation and judging what we've had to say. Okay. It looks like it came back with a quite. That's what it came back with, is quite.
Quite.
So it's quite diverting.
That's fair.
Yeah. Does that sound like
somehow the computer, it always feels exactly right after it comes out.
It's quite diverting. It's quite a diverting show. I think that's somewhere in between 7 and highly, isn't it?
Yeah. Like I said, once the computer comes out with it, I just feel like, yeah, that's right.
We thank you, computer, for all that you do for us. Oh boy. So I think both of us would say you should see it.
Yeah.
Because it's still a good movie. It is. I would definitely agree with the computer too. It's quite diverting. And you mentioned being mesmerized by the movie. I will say that there were times where I caught myself just not realizing there was anything else going on.
Yeah.
I was just, it was like a tractor beam. It kind of
Yeah,
sucked me right in.
it's hard to explain why, because there's not anything other than the story to really point to. He was a very compelling actor, and
Hmm.
so anyway, I agree with the result.
Yep. Well, all right. Well, stay tuned till next week. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a subscribe. If you're listening to us, give us a subscribe or wherever you sign up for podcasts, and we'll have some more episodes coming down the pike. I think when this one comes out, it'll be probably into December, based on our schedule. And until the next
Happy holidays,
episode,
everybody.
yeah, happy Boxing Day's coming up for the Canadians, right? Did the British celebrate Boxing Day too?
I
Is that a
don't
British
know.
thing?
I thought that was just a Canadian thing.
Oh, I don't know either. I thought maybe it was Canadian because it was British.
Isn't it boxing because of all the boxes from the
Yeah,
gifts?
not
and
like
stuff like that.
not like our movie we did earlier,
not-
Rocky.
Not pugilism.
I first heard that word, by the way, watching Cinderella Man.
Oh, really?
Pugilism. Yeah,
I haven't seen that in a long time. I saw that. I only saw that once, right when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, happy holidays.
Yeah, and looks like my drink's empty.
Mine too.
So there's that.